Hey there, welcome back to the healing journey. This is episode 14, and I want to share how that emotional check-in practice went for me this week. Honestly, it's been hard to do when my first instinct is to avoid how I'm feeling and pretend I'm fine, especially when I'm sad or angry. Like, I'll notice I'm feeling something difficult, and immediately my brain just goes, nope, we're not doing this right now, and I will distract myself or busy myself with something else. It's just one of those practices that I need to try and remember and keep working at. But I'm realizing how automatic that avoidance response is, especially with certain emotions. I'm on this healing journey with you, and we're figuring this out together. And I think this tendency to avoid or hide from our emotions, especially the difficult ones, is something most of us struggle with. Today we are going to explore something that often sits underneath that avoidance: shame. Not the big, obvious kind of shame, but the quiet, subtle shame that whispers, "You shouldn't feel this way," or "Good people don't get this angry," or "You're being too sensitive." We are going to talk about why we learn to hide from certain emotions, how shame keeps us stuck in patterns of avoidance, and most importantly, how to create a safe internal space where all your feelings are allowed to exist. Because here is what I'm learning. When you try to avoid or suppress emotions, they don't actually go away. They just go underground, where they influence your behavior, your relationships, and your sense of well-being in ways you might not even realize. Today I'm going to show you how to work with shame and emotional avoidance in a way that transforms them rather than fights them. Let me start by talking about why we avoid emotions in the first place. Because it's not just random or a character flaw. Most of us learned early on that certain emotions were acceptable and others weren't. Maybe in your family, anger was scary or dangerous, so you learned to suppress it or turn it inward. Maybe sadness was seen as weakness or self-pity, so you learned to push through and stay strong. Maybe fear was dismissed as being dramatic or overly sensitive, so you learned to ignore your instincts and intuition. These weren't conscious decisions you made as a child. Your developing nervous system simply learned this emotion leads to rejection, criticism, or danger. Better not feel it, or at least not show it. So you developed strategies. Maybe you became really good at staying busy, so you wouldn't have time to feel. Maybe you learned to intellectualize everything instead of feeling it. Maybe you became the positive person who always looks on the bright side. Maybe you learned to numb out with food, substances, shopping, social media, work. These strategies often worked really well for keeping you safe in the environments where you learned them. The problem is they can become automatic responses that persist even when you are in safer situations as an adult. And underneath this avoidance often sits shame. The belief that certain parts of your emotional experience are fundamentally wrong or bad. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, I am bad. Guilt is about actions. Shame is about identity. When it comes to emotions, shame sounds like, I shouldn't feel this angry. Good people don't get this upset. I'm being too sensitive. I should be stronger than this. Other people handle things better than I do. There is something wrong with me. Shame about emotions creates what I think of as a quiet room inside you. A place where the feelings you've deemed unacceptable get locked away. But the thing about emotions is that they don't just disappear when you try to hide them. They stay in that room, sometimes getting louder, sometimes affecting you in ways you don't consciously recognize. Maybe you suppress anger, but it comes out as passive-aggressive or resentment. Maybe you avoid sadness, but it shows up as numbness or disconnection from joy as well. Maybe you push away fear, but it manifests as anxiety or control issues. The emotions you try not to feel often end up controlling your life more than the emotions you allow yourself to experience consciously. Here is what's important to understand. There are no bad emotions. Emotions are information. They are energy moving through your system. They are your human heart responding to your human experience. Anger can tell you when your boundaries have been crossed or when something matters deeply to you. Sadness can help you process loss and connect with what you value. Fear can alert you to real dangers or help you recognize when you need support. Even emotions that feel overwhelming or destructive often contain important information when you can be present with them safely. But shame tells us that certain emotions make us bad people, which makes it impossible to learn from them or let them move through us naturally. When you feel shame about an emotion, you create internal conflict. Part of you is having the emotion, and another part of you is attacking you for having it. This creates tension, stress, and often makes the original emotion more intense or persistent. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The more effort you put into keeping it down, the more force it exerts trying to come back up. And eventually your arms get tired and it explodes to the surface anyway. Working with shame around emotions isn't about forcing yourself to feel everything or expressing every emotion that you have. It's about creating internal space where all emotions are allowed to exist, even if you choose not to act on them. This internal space is like opening that quiet room and saying to whatever's been locked in there, You are allowed to be here. I don't have to like you or agree with you, but you are not bad or wrong for existing. When you stop fighting with your emotions, when you stop shaming yourself for having them, they can actually move through your system more naturally. They arise, they give you whatever information they have, and then they naturally subside. But this requires developing what I call emotional courage. The willingness to be present with the feelings that might be uncomfortable or inconvenient. Let me give you an example. Let's say you feel angry about something someone said to you. If you have shame around anger, your internal dialogue might be, I shouldn't be angry about this. They probably didn't mean it that way. I'm being too sensitive. I need to just let this go. But what if instead you said, I notice anger here about what they said. Anger is allowed. What is this anger trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling me that I felt disrespected, or that this topic matters to me. I don't have to act on this anger right now, but I can let it be here and listen to what it's trying to communicate. From that place of acceptance rather than shame, you might realize that you want to have a conversation with this person about what they said. Or you might realize that their comment triggered something from your past that doesn't really have to do with them. Or you might just let the anger move through without needing to do anything at all. The point is, when you are not fighting with the emotion or shaming yourself for having it, you have more choice about how to respond. The same thing applies to sadness, fear, disappointment, jealousy, or any other emotion that you might have learned is unacceptable. Now, I want to be clear about something. Creating space for emotions doesn't mean you have to feel everything all the time, or that you can't use healthy coping strategies when you are overwhelmed. Sometimes you need to set boundaries around when and how you process emotions. Sometimes you need support from others. Sometimes you need to take care of practical things first and come back to feelings later. The difference is choosing your response from self-care rather than from shame. It's the difference between I'm going to distract myself from this feeling because it's bad and wrong, and I'm going to take care of myself right now by doing something soothing, and I will come back to this feeling when I have more capacity. When you approach emotions from self-care rather than shame, you maintain your connection to yourself, even when you are not actively processing every feeling that arises. Let's practice creating a safe internal space for an emotion that you might normally try to avoid. Take a comfortable position and take a few slow breaths. Think of an emotion that's been present for you lately, but that you might have been pushing away or trying not to feel. Maybe it's anger, sadness, fear, disappointment, or something else. Choose something that's present, but not overwhelming. We want to practice with something manageable. Notice what your usual response to this emotion is. Maybe you try to think your way out of it, or distract yourself, or tell yourself you shouldn't feel this way. Just observe your typical pattern without judging it. Now, imagine there is a quiet room inside your heart where this emotion has been waiting. Picture yourself approaching the door to this room with curiosity rather than fear. Take a breath and gently open the door. Don't force anything. Just create an opening. Say to whatever emotion is there, "Hello, anger, sadness, fear. I see you there. You are allowed to be here. I don't have to like you or understand you completely, but you are not wrong for existing." Notice what happens in your body when you offer acceptance instead of resistance to this emotion. Maybe there is a softening or a release of tension, or just a subtle sense of relief. Ask this emotion, "What are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to know?" Don't force an answer. Just listen with curiosity. Maybe anger is telling you about a boundary that was crossed. Maybe the sadness is helping you grieve something that you've lost. Maybe the fear is alerting you to something that needs attention. You don't have to agree with everything the emotion says, but you can listen without immediately arguing or trying to fix anything. Now imagine breathing space around this emotion. You are not pushing it away, but you're also not drowning in it. You can be present with it without becoming it. If any shame comes up about having this emotion, thoughts like, I shouldn't feel this way, or this is stupid, notice that shame with the same curiosity. Say to the shame, I see you too. You learned to protect me by making certain emotions seem dangerous. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Take another breath and appreciate yourself for being willing to be present with what you are feeling instead of immediately pushing it away. This is brave work. When you are ready, you can step back from this emotional space, not to abandon the feeling, but to let it rest in that safe room, knowing it's welcome to be there when you are ready to visit again. Fill your heart now. Maybe it feels a little more spacious, a little less conflicted, knowing that all parts of your emotional experience have permission to exist. This week, I want you to practice noticing your avoidance patterns without trying to change them immediately. When you catch yourself pushing away a feeling or pretending you are fine when you're not, just observe. Oh, I'm doing that thing where I avoid feeling angry, sad, or scared. Don't shame yourself for the avoidance. Remember, these patterns developed for good reasons. Just notice them with curiosity. Once a day, try this simple practice. When you notice that you're avoiding an emotion, pause and say, it's okay to feel this emotion. Feelings aren't dangerous. I don't have to act on this feeling, but I can let it be here. You don't have to dive deep into processing every emotion. Just practice giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling without immediately making it wrong. Pay attention to which emotions are harder for you to be present with. Is it anger, sadness, fear, disappointment? Notice if there are voices in your head that tell you why these particular emotions are bad or wrong. If you notice shame coming up about having certain emotions, try responding with, "This emotion makes sense given what I'm experiencing." All humans have the full range of emotions. There is nothing wrong with me for feeling this. Remember, you are not trying to become someone who feels everything intensely all the time. You are just practicing creating internal space where your emotions can exist without shame. And be patient with yourself about this. If your pattern has been to avoid certain emotions for years, it's going to take time and practice to develop a different relationship with them. Every moment of awareness is progress. What I find so freeing about this work is that when you stop fighting with your emotions, you stop fighting with yourself. When you create internal space for all parts of your experience, you become more integrated, more whole, more authentically yourself. And here is something beautiful. When you are not spending energy pushing away certain emotions, you have more capacity for joy, creativity, love, and all the experiences you actually want to have. It takes courage to face what you've been avoiding, but the freedom on the other side is worth it. Next week in episode 15, we are going to explore "You are whole already," shifting from that belief that you're broken and need fixing to recognize the wholeness that's been there all along. Until then, practice gentle curiosity about your emotional avoidance patterns. Remember, awareness is the first step to choice. I'm on this journey with you, learning to make space for all my feelings too. Thank you for being here with me today. Take care of yourself, and I will see you next week.